Hey everyone, Sajeel Qureshi here with another episode of RevOps 500. Today I am stoked to be talking to somebody who I've known for a little while. We are longtime ping pong rivals, table tennis to be politically correct, and you can find him now. He's the owner of Paula Inc. Enrique Flores. Welcome to RevOps 500, man.
Thank you for having me, dude. It's an honor. I was excited to join you and talk to you for a little bit.
Yeah, only for a little bit though, right? Because you're a busy guy, and we all know that. So
says
Enrique,
the
Enrique,
says the
what is
busiest guy alive.
so Enrique? What is your biggest mistake?
That's a great way to start, man. Making me feel good about myself here.
Right, that's right.
In general, about the company, like
Whatever you tell me and we'll run with it. So it could be in general, it could be about the company, it could be what we talked about over table tennis, whatever you want. I mean, like, so what is your biggest mistake?
listen, the list is long. So um, let's talk about the business since that's
All
the context of
right.
what we do. I think that when it comes to the business, when I started Paula, I think I underestimated how difficult it was to build a business. And then on top of that, I built a business in an industry that I wasn't really a part of. Like
Mm.
RevOps, it's a world for largely for startups, tech companies. I mean, all kinds of company, but tech companies for the most part, software companies. And I came from the investment world, very traditional. I had never held a sales role in my life. So I was an operator and I was very good at operating and implementing things or doing things like that. But then, and I thought, listen, I'm a sociable guy. How hard can it be to sell and to build a business? And so I dove in and then I found out how hard it was. So I think if I had to do it again, I'd do it differently. But it's been 3.5 years now and the business is somewhat stable and it's growing slowly but growing. So I feel like I'm managing and I've gotten through some of the hardest parts, but I really had no idea what I was walking into.
So if you could walk it back 3 years now, I know you worked in marketing, right? Not necessarily sales, but you worked in marketing,
So
investments, took a
yeah,
break. I know that. I mean, like,
let
and
me
then you
tell you a
moved
little
in.
bit about that background.
Yeah, yeah.
My last role was basically CMO and CTO at a research company.
Okay.
So economic research company. And so we sold economic research to people in Wall Street and Bay Street and everybody in finance. And it was very much a subscription system. So there was a lot of technology, a lot of marketing. It was direct to consumer. So I definitely had like the RevOps experience and HubSpot experience from that role. But before that, I had a senior role or a mid management role at a investment management firm, and that was very slow, right? So it's investment management. It was very high touch, traditional marketing. There wasn't a lot of online transactions happening, so I was good at it, and we did some big projects there, but it wasn't like the hardcore rev up stuff that happens when you're um, in this industry. So I think I overestimated um, not so much my knowledge because it has been fairly easy to pick that up, but like being part of an ecosystem, knowing people. When I went to sell to my network what I was selling and what they needed, there was a gap, right? Most of them use Salesforce because they're big institutions. Most of them don't have this. They didn't even understand RevOps. They don't have RevOps people. I knew how I could help them, but because there was a gap between what I knew and what they thought they needed, which is a lot easier to bridge when you're inside the company and you have the time to explain the thing and do all of that. It was a challenge. So I ended up having to sort of split the company. And that's why you see today we're like branding and digital presence for financial services because it's a lot easier for people to understand that websites, looks, and I understand the financial lingo and their world, so I understand how their clients buy, so that works. But then the RevOps side, it's one that I cater to different companies, also in financial services, but not my network. So that had to just be like something I've built from scratch. I don't know if that does that answer the question.
Yeah, no, it does, it does. And and now, like, so let's start. Let's talk about the beginning parts of Paula. I mean, was it? What was those? What were the first days like? I mean, when you had no clients, when you got your first client. I mean, what was that? How did they come through? How did it happen?
I got my first client the day I announced Paula, like
How
that.
that usually doesn't happen, right? So
No,
what was that? What did that happen? I mean, was it because you're a nice guy? I mean, did you buy somebody a drink? Did you poison somebody?
yeah,
What was the story there?
nicest guy alive. Starts a business, and it's like, okay, we gotta do business. No, listen, I was associated. I've been working in the investment industry for 13 years. I was associated with a guy that had a big name. I did important work in terms of helping him set up his business, his infrastructure, and it was very successful. He is relatively famous, so it was easy to get noticed in that business and to build that business because the demand was there already. And then, so when I left that and I kind of talked about what I'd done, and it was visible to anyone that was connected to that business, which was thousands of people, then there was enough people out there that were like, oh, do the same thing for me. So the day I announced that, I got called back to do work. And I hadn't even started the company. I just say, hey, I want to do this. And I immediately landed a client. But then, and then I landed another one, and it was kind of fine, but it wasn't like big money or big projects. And I made a bunch of mistakes. And then I started the business, and then I really had to start like, okay, I need to craft a message. I need to,
Mm.
and honestly, the way I did it at the beginning, dude, like in the first few months, I downloaded my entire LinkedIn database. I extracted all the contacts from my phone. I downloaded my Facebook database. I downloaded my Instagram database. I organized it all in an Excel before there was AI to help me do this.
Mm.
I manually went through, and it was like 2,500 contacts. I manually went through each of them and categorized it. Okay, this is a guy from my small town in Venezuela. That's probably not going to be a prospect for Paula.
Right.
Oh, I worked with this person 10 years ago. Let me see what they're doing now. And I literally segmented the whole thing. I figured out who was working. And then I one by one contacted them, told the story. And out of that, I got 2 deals. Out of like, and, but one of those deals is from a company that to this day, they give me work, and I probably make on average 100K a year from them. And so just from that exercise.
So you actually kind of followed the script in a way, right? Where I mean, one thing obviously, not everybody has a famous name that they can kind of rely on or they were working with and they could get on day one. But the part after that, I mean, where you say, okay, I have my network, my friends, family from wherever, right? From kid you went to public school with a grade school with when you're like 7 years old, all the way up to somebody who you just work with in some company, had lunch with one time you saw in the hallway, a week ago, right? They're all in that database, and you just talk to each one of them, and you got some deals out of it, which is pretty interesting. And
And it was
was it
hard, man.
was it hard? Yeah, I mean, what was it like? How long did it take to go through? I mean, did you go by one? Did you
Yeah,
call them?
no,
What did
I
you
didn't
do?
go through it. And at the end, like the list was like, I don't know, 200 people that were viable, right?
Okay, okay.
But I think the biggest lesson for me, and this is a reminder because every time I'm in a valley, like, business is slow and whatever, I kind of remind myself of this. The people who actually ended up giving me business are some of the people that when you're going through that list and you have a new business and you're not really a salesperson, so you're a little embarrassed. Should I contact them? I haven't talked to this person in 4 years. Like when you're going through all that self doubt, the people who have given me business are people who I passed on like the first 4 or 5 times I went through the list. So
I mean, you didn't talk to
I
them.
didn't reach out to them. I was like, oh no, this
Oh,
person doesn't even remember who I am. This person, I haven't talked to him or her in so long. And then, like you go through it and then you realize that the people closest to you, um, you might not get anything out of that. So that you realize, okay, the people I thought I was going to get business from, I'm probably not going to get business from because, there is no demand or whatever the reason might be.
yeah.
But then, you go 3, 4 times, and then one day I'm like, okay, whatever, man. Let me just reach out. And then you get the most amazing response. And it's kind of like, oh, we haven't talked in 10 years, literally. Like this person I'm talking about, it was this girl that I used to work with like 12 years ago. Oh, we haven't talked in 10 years. Enrique, it's so great to hear from you. And then I'm making an offer. And then she asked, like that relationship literally started with, hey, we actually need help putting together a presentation. We need a sales presentation that captures our message. And I'm like, I can help you with that. I used to do that at Gluskin Chef, my old company. So started there, led to a big website project, which led to another big website project, which led to a massive marketing hub enterprise implementation. And from there, we've built tools and whatever. So it started with like a PowerPoint. So there's so many lessons there in terms of what you need to be open to doing at the beginning. And well, the one thing that I was very clear on from the beginning, Sajeel, and I've paid the price, is I do not want to do like small business, $4,000 deals. I want to just do enterprise level implementations, which means that I had to pass on a bunch of stuff, not a bunch of stuff, some stuff. But I think that focus has helped because now my clients, which is not like a huge amount of clients, are big clients. Some of them are like from the big banks to like big investment firms. So I think if I hadn't stuck to that, then I probably would be dealing with a lot of little business that comes with a bunch of challenges.
And do you think maybe because you worked in like a very corporate environment helps with that? Because it's not that you
Yeah,
started off in a small business, so you're working in a smaller shop, and then you were have to just work with the people that you know who are also in smaller shops. So you said, no, I work in a corporate environment. I'm going to leave a corporate environment. I'm going to work with other corporate types. Is that more? Do you think that's why maybe that's the case? Because a lot of times you have to start. You start with like I start with the small stuff. You start with the small stuff, and you pick up the small stuff, and you build your rhythm that way. You didn't do
I
that.
think that might have been a better way of doing it. I don't know. In hindsight, I really have not idea. But what
Mm.
I did know is that I wanted to create a portfolio that people will respect in terms of the names that were on the website, so that if I'm pitching to like a mid-market investment firm that manages $5 billion in assets, they didn't look at it and be like, I think you're
Yeah.
just dealing. And so I really needed to focus. And because I had a network in that world, I'm like, okay, let me just take advantage of this. And so in terms of it being easier, I actually, to answer your question, I actually found it easier to deal with these people than with small businesses because I was so corporate
Right.
that like from how I did a proposal to the meetings to requirement gathering, like I will just scare small businesses when I went with my whole process. But on the flip side, when I was dealing with corporations, then it's sort of like somebody who knew the language and the paperwork and some sort of kind of like the red tape
Mhm.
style
How to
thing that
navigate
you needed to go through.
that situation. So I mean, now, do you think that maybe other consultants, agency types, do you think they struggle because of that? That they try to just take everything that moves and not necessarily just take what they want to take, or maybe they don't have a choice because
For sure, for sure. Although I want to tell you, when I look out there, I feel like I'm the only one struggling and everyone else is
yeah,
killing
yeah,
it.
it's always what it looks,
So,
it's always what it looks like, right? Yeah.
I don't know if that's how it feels for other people, but the way I feel is like I'm the only one hustling and grinding here, and these guys are taking
Yeah,
pictures
they
and
got, they got
conferences and
leads coming
having.
in, no problem. They have their inbox is full of people who want to work with them. That's what I always think. I think about you all the time. I think, man, this guy's got like emails coming in all day long. People, hey, can you do this for me? Do that for me? People raise their hands to work with you. I'm like, oh man, this guy Enrique, he's so busy, whatever.
No, well, I'm glad I
That's what I think.
project that.
That's what I think. Yeah.
But to answer your question more seriously, I think that. Oh yeah, I think that I have at times, a couple of times, taken business that I knew it's like this doesn't feel right, and or no, this is small, and it has been messy. It has been messy because from not getting enough attention from the client to be able to make the thing happen because they are trying to do 47 things at the same time, like so, kind of like I am,
Right.
to uh, wanting to do a lot with a tiny budget, to so many ways in which that kind of goes sideways, and then you really need to create unbelievable value for very little. Otherwise, they don't have a lot of resources to spend, so it's different. Also, we're a quality agency. Like, I take a lot of pride in quality, and if you and I know you guys do too. So when you want to be able to spend the extra time making sure something is unbelievable, you got to be able to bill for that. Otherwise, you end up doing work you don't really want to do because it's just not, it doesn't meet your standards.
So when it comes to like, let's talk about standards then. So like, have you and service delivery. So when you started, you don't have some sort of like understanding, right? Of like what will be acceptable, what is like a bug, what is unacceptable. How did Paula build out like the baseline of that? Like, okay, like what is good work, and when do you think, okay, what do you define as good work? Is it just so the client's happy and that's it, or is it like, is it
When
something
I'm
done
happy.
specifically, or when you're happy, right? So take us through that. Like, what does it look like for you? What does good work? What does the gold standard look like for a guy who is obsessed with details?
I think it's something that I'm still defining, but it is not uncommon for us to have a client that says this is good enough, and we're looking at it, and I'm like, no, I don't like how this happens, or this looks off, or what about that next step that we know people are going to have to take, but we're not really addressing? We need to be able to do that. And so one of my problems is doing too much. And even when the client tells me, I don't have any more budget, I'm like, I still don't want to give you this 90%. And then I'm willing to just do the additional 10 to 15, 20%. That's the part that makes me sound good, and like, it's true. But it's like, on the flip side, one of the challenges I've had with standards, and this happened recently on a project, which was a big project, because I'm not a developer, i I took a job that was like, one of those jobs that we got to do it in 4 months, but in reality it should have taken 8,
Mm.
and the budget was like a quarter of what it should have been. And because it was a good budget to begin with, you're like, okay, this looks like a good number, but then when you look under the hood, you're like, oh my god. So the one of the challenges I've had is because I'm not a developer. I have struggled to, and this only happened once because I didn't have enough time. But sometimes when my developers build something and I have to deliver it, I don't know what I'm delivering to some extent. I can see on the front end, I can see the behavior, and sometimes that's good enough, but there is more to development than that, right? Like, what's happening in the back end, how good is the code, and all of that. So that's an area where what I feel like, at least in one project, I under delivered. And the reason I know I under delivered is because on the other side, there was a senior developer, and we developed a great relationship. And he pointed it out in a couple of ways. The way I fixed that is that I brought on a senior developer that is as obsessed with quality as I am, to oversee the team, which is in many countries. But my goal is as close to perfection as it can possibly be, man. And I look for clients that are looking for that.
And does that impede progress at all? Like, just trying to be
For sure,
too
for sure,
to be like
for sure.
too. It does, okay.
That's my
So
intention. That's my intention, especially internally, because externally you have a deadline, and you're like, okay, I have to meet that deadline. Internally, I feel like my company will be bigger if I didn't get in our own way as much, trying for everything to be perfect. If you go to our latest website, the one right now, like, we spend so much time making sure everything is perfect, and the colors. And I don't know if you've seen it, but we just launched it like 2 weeks ago, and it's that obsession, man. There are companies that want that, they need that. Like, I deal with companies where They're dealing with investors whose minimum is 20, $50 million that they need to invest with these companies. So it's like it's gotta be perfect, and I'm trying to just move in that direction. Not just much because not only because they have money, but because it's the kind of companies that care about the same things I care about in terms of quality, and so there is an alignment there. Having said that, that's not what RevOps is. So on the RevOps side, I've had to learn. It's like iteration, movement, trial and error, keep going, and so it's a tension, almost like an internal tension for me and for my team, because I also find people who are perfectionists, and it's like, okay, it's not good. It's good and
Yeah,
it's not good.
yeah. There's like creative perfection, right, which is more like a traditional agency. There's the branding, the messaging, the aesthetics, those sorts of things, and then there's also like the RevOps piece of it, which is more like how do we align marketing, sales, customer success, people making sure they're happy when they're interacting with our with this business, right? So now let's talk about obsession from a creative context, because obviously it's with the role of AI and AI becoming such a huge piece of everything, people are concerned about the crunch that will have on creative agencies, right? Like the whole idea of, look, an AI agent can be used to design things, to make things perfect, right? Now you're somebody who walks into like places where people will be investing 25-50 million dollars in financial services, right? Do you feel like, I mean, how is AI helping your creative process? How is it inhibiting it? How is it what's the relationship on the creative side for you guys at Paula right now?
I'm still trying to figure that out, but what I can tell you for sure is that obviously there is this perception inside companies. Not all companies. Like I deal with one of the big five banks, and they, there is so much red tape there that they don't even think about AI yet. So it's not a challenge. They are
Mm.
happy to pay a human being to do creative work. For smaller companies, I'm already dealing with conversations around, well, how can you bill me this much if you're probably going to get AI to do this for you?
Mm. Right.
And I think and that's a conversation where I'm developing the arguments against it, not because I need them, but because they're true. And I discover them because, yes, I am trying to actually leverage AI,
Of course.
and I'm running into roadblocks because it won't answer or it won't deliver the things that I need uh, in meeting the quality that we need them. So, for design in particular, I don't think it's there. Like I can design stuff that's way, not I, my designers can design stuff that's way better than anything AI can do. And so from that perspective, if you want something quick that looks gonna look good enough, you can do it with AI. But if you want something premium, you need a designer, 100%. Um, Having said that, that is something that I'm having to communicate, that I'm having to develop the assets to show where the gap is,
Mm.
because people do seem to be to think that, oh, you can just get AI to do it. From a development perspective, is a different conversation, because you do get a big lift from a development perspective from an AI engine. But as you know, it's all about the context, and it's all about getting it to do pieces. But if you don't have the expert behind it, bringing it all together, making sure that uh, things make sense for the context in which it's being built, and that it's just not hallucinating and building things that you don't need and giving you outcomes that you weren't expecting,
Yeah.
then it's not going to get you anywhere. And here's the thing, I just wrote about this. It's so polished that it's going to look like it's there, but
Yeah.
only after you're gonna realize, oh no. Just like when he writes a piece, the first five sentences, like, oh, this is on point. It's like, why are you talking about this? Like, this wasn't even about this in the first place. But like the beginning looks good, so yeah. And so right now, it's a lot of like, sort of like making sure people understand that, so that they continue to assign value to the work we do, which is, you wouldn't like, if you tell me AI can perform this surgery, I will still want a surgeon there that
Mm.
has 20 years of experience, making sure that the things at least making sense, right? So it's kind of like that.
Okay, so you do feel that there is a way for AI and a creative agency that's like works with in a high end level to coexist. You're not in that boat that says that AI is going to destroy the creative agency process entirely. Like it's gonna.
I think it might, but I think AI requires a lot of context. And I think what's happening is that there is this inverse relationship between our willingness to provide a context
Mhm.
versus before, and then its ability to need it. Like for example, before we were better at gathering requirements because we needed to, so we will make spend a lot of time. Now we just want to write two sentences, have it read our mind, and then interpret everything.
Yeah.
And we're becoming lazier and lazier. So as long as that's the case, you won't know what you need, and as long as it doesn't know what you need, it will give you something else. And so
Okay.
you will always need to find a way to make sure that you capture the context and that you fit it to it perfectly. And by the way, capturing the context a lot of the time is not something that you have readily in your head. You start working on it and then you realize things, and then so not only does it have to capture what's obvious, but what you would have discovered if you had gone through the process of trying to capture the context yourself. And that's a big, I think that's a tall order for AI to figure all of that out on its own.
Yeah, I go back to there's this Abraham Lincoln analogy. I mean, it's funny, both of us are Canadian, but we're talking about a U.S. president here. But Abraham Lincoln, he had this. I don't know how the analogy goes, but it's like if I have 10 hours to cut down a tree, I'll spend 9 hours sharpening the axe. And like I think to what you're saying is AI is kind of like the axe. It can do whatever you tell it to do, but you really have to know what you're telling it. And that process is like over time that requirements gathering is kind of being degraded in ourselves as humans because we're just we're just too busy. That's all fix this for me, do this for me. We're not actually doing this process of okay, I need this done. Here's what I want it to look like. Here's the whole requirements gathering that agencies typically do, creative ones, right? Okay, what do you want to look like? What do you want to say? What are you trying to say? And then that whole requirements gathering process is kind of falling by the wayside. And maybe now with AI, maybe AI will actually create a renaissance for that whole requirements gathering process, which will again bring the creative agency back, who will sit there, ask the questions for you, and then ask the questions with AI, answer those questions. Maybe something
Yeah.
like that is going to happen. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that part is becoming more important. That pre-production part is becoming more important. That's exactly what I think it is. And I see us getting lazier and lazier because we got in these amazing answers. And
Yeah.
now we think it will just do everything. And the biggest bet for the future of my company is how lazy people are getting. Like the reason I think we might succeed is because people are going to be so lazy at some point that not going to want to do the bare minimum, and then we will be there to fill that gap. That's how I think.
Well, I mean, to your point, I mean, like, look at a word processing software, right? Like Microsoft Word or whatever. People can write anything now. I mean, you still have books behind you. I mean, people are still writing. Good writers are still writing books and producing them. Even though we can self-produce our own content now, right? There are still books being made. People are still reading. They're consuming content in different ways, right? So,
So Jill, my writing, I used to be a pretty decent writer. For a guy who is not even, English is not my first language. I used to be a decent writer. I used to help the CEOs of the companies I used to
okay.
work in write speeches.
Mhm.
My writing has degraded significantly since AI came out.
Because of AI, yeah,
And it's an internal battle where I'm at the point that it's like, okay, I'm never letting it write anything again. And it's just so hard because, we're business owners. So at
yeah.
some point it's like, okay, I'm just struggling for no reason here. But uh, it's very hard. It's a very hard fight. Like the thing just produces, especially from a writing perspective. Now, I've also gone through like 27 versions of something, and it's just a huge fight with the LLMs to get the messaging I want. And I'm like, I probably could have done this faster myself. So, but the temptation of just telling it to do something is just so there. Yeah.
No, but it's interesting. I mean, obviously, like in our world, I mean, we are not AI. We're not AI behind. I mean, we're AI forward usually compared to other industries, other people, right? In that we just talk to. But it's interesting to see the where it's heading, right? Because right now everybody's adapting, everybody's trying to use it, everybody's trying to catch up. It's like walking on a bridge, which is kind of being being built at the same time you're walking on it. And like, we don't know where it's going to go, but we have to, as people in this industry, we have like an obligation almost to figure out where it's going to go, right? And how it's going to be used and stuff like that. So let's say, for example, here's something I always mull about with our team internally. So let's say someone gave you a job, say, Enrique, here's your average deal size, right? Or maybe when you're in your top 20%, here's the money, here's the contract. Make us AI ready, AI transformation job. What would that look like for you guys if someone asked you to do that? What would it be? What would AI transformation job be for you guys?
Damn, it's a hard question. I think I would begin with infrastructure, security, privacy. I will begin there.
Because they're financial services companies, right? Like
Yeah,
the
and almost any company, man. I think we're gonna get to a point.
high fruit, or why would you do that? Is it because it's the easiest place, or is it why would you
No,
start
man,
with?
it's. I just think there is a huge amount of risk
Okay.
in just letting people um, have access to Claude and have Claude have access to all their systems
Okay.
without a good understanding of what data is being accessed, of how that's going to be exposed. I'm expecting in the near future a few scandals where
Sure.
people were just like, oh no, you know what, let's just install it, we'll figure it out later. The lawyer said it was fine. There's going to be information popping up in places that it shouldn't pop up. So I don't want to be on the other side of that. I think we got in, I think we, this has happened before, but I think we're in this place where it's like we're using the justification that everybody's doing it to do some dumb stuff in terms of access, in terms of privacy, in terms of security.
Yeah.
And so I would start there. How do we compartmentalize the information? How do we make sure that the private information that you have is not getting fed to the models? Like, I would just try to do the infrastructure, security, and privacy work that's necessary for this to work well. I think the next step is empowering people. There is two things you can do, right? You can either build the solutions for people, or you can just show them how to do these things.
Yeah.
And the curve of learning for people is different. So for some people will just need how to just, how do I create a project in Claude? How do I create a skill in Claude? Some people are going to want to use co-work. Some people are going to want to use code. So I think that is different, but I think it's also a question of who is this for? Like, is are your business needs more related to developing a solution, like a technology, an app that is going to help you do something inside the business, or is it more you're a marketing agency and then you need to leverage the creative parts of the system of
Mhm.
the LLMs to be able to produce
Yeah.
deliverables quickly? And so I don't know that it's a one size fits all answer, but what is true, I think, across the board, is this whole idea of privacy, infrastructure and security needing to be pretty tight to avoid an issue in the future.
So you would say, okay, the first thing you do is try and secure the loot, like lock down any sort of gaps in the foundation of the company. Second thing you do is it depends on what it is. Like if a marketing agency came to you and said, okay, help me with AI, is it okay? Do you want to make your creative better? Do you want to tell stories better? Do you want to, I don't know, have your team members log time easier? What's your problem? And
Do
then
you want to just manage your projects better, right? Like,
yes,
I think it depends on that. But at a foundational level, listen, there are some companies that I have two clients that are very that make a very good example. I have a client that just doesn't care to learn it. It's like, just use it to create the outcomes for me and the deliverables for me, and I just want a perfect deliverable, and I don't care how you do it. Leverage all the AI you want. I have another one that's like, no, teach me how to use this. I want to develop my own applications. I want my team to be well versed in how to use this, and then basically I'm putting myself out of business long term, but that's what they need. So, I mean, I will assume most companies will want to go in that direction, but it really depends on how much time you want to spend on this versus just doing what you do. I think it depends on each case.
so I mean, yeah, so there really is no like,
Do you
oh,
have one?
oh, I mean, I think about it all the time, right? Like, because for example, you could go, you and I could go into a restaurant, and I use this analogy all the time in the office, right? in the office. You and I could go into a restaurant, and if they said, the restaurant just started up, we could say, okay, well, and then we would find 15 things that we would probably improve with it. Oh, the menu has typos, or oh, there's no Uber Eats set up, there's no takeout window, the parking, there's like 2 spots, you could have like 5 here. So we could always think about those different things pretty quickly, right? So if someone could probably come to Paula and say, hey, okay, I like those ideas. Here's a check. Go and get those things done. And then you would go in there and talk to the parking person, carve out a window for takeout, get the Uber Eats account or Food Panda account, whatever, set up and do all that sort of thing. And so I was thinking, well, that's when business had to go say digital, right, or something, or digital. They had to go digital, or they had to get more streamlined operationally. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what would we say if someone said, okay, here's make me AI, make me good with AI? Because
I think
that's
the fundamental question, the first fundamental question is obviously outside of like the privacy and security stuff, which for a restaurant is probably is not as important as it is for people
yeah,
who are managing people's money
sure,
or healthcare or
yeah,
which is more I think my ICP. I think the question is, do you want us to figure out what your problems are and leverage AI to fix them quickly, or do you want us to empower you to do that?
right,
And or do you want a hybrid of both where, listen, well, there are some things we need to do and we need them to do them now. Help me get those done, understand the problem, understand the solution, and implement it, and at the same time teach us how to do this long term so that we're not relying on you for everything. And so I think that's the first question, like, do you want to learn how to do it versus having it done for me? Because there is an industry here, there is a market opportunity here in teaching big companies how to implement AI, how to make it secure, how to train their people to use it at the different levels using the different tools. And so that alone could be a business. That's a viable business, I think.
oh yeah, that's AI adaptation versus AI transformation, right? There's like two totally different things, right? Like
Right.
there's building an AI infrastructure for somebody, and then there's actually having a bigger company, like the ones that you work with, probably just adapting AI in different processes and teaching them what to do. Maybe being like a fractional chief AI officer. I don't know, something like CAIO, CIO. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
sometimes these projects are so big that even like you're actually a consulting and implementation partner because even developing the infrastructure, the processes, like who has access to what, like change management alone can be a big challenge on that. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a lot of projects like that. I don't have any projects where I'm actually doing that right now, but I'm having a lot of conversations or the consultancy level about sort of kind of like what it takes and what's possible. And I think it's inevitably going to lead to some like, hey, can you help us implement this?
yeah, well, that's what happens, right? You start as the educator, then you become the implementer, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
I actually have a question for you because I think I'm one of the questions I have, Sajil, and this one is like I've always spoken about what we do in such big terms, in terms of like big transformations and whatever, that I think it scares some people unless they really have a need, right? Like as opposed to
yeah,
just starting with something small and hey, no, we can do this, and then that leads to something else. So it's like, okay, what's an easy packageable way that makes a big difference to go to places and then create demand? And I'm coming to the conclusion that answer engine optimization is one common thread across everybody, which is like, I just want to show up in the LLMs when people look for either my products or my company, mostly my products and the services I offer.
mm.
And so I think my next bet is on AEO. In fact, I'm already doing a lot of work on that. And I wonder how you felt and what you thought about that.
I think it's huge, right? I mean, that's where customers are going now. So customers are not necessarily just going to Google or a web search engine to type things. I was having a problem with my microwave before we started, and I took a picture of the error message. I went to the AI and said, "Hey, man, how do I fix this?" It told me. I 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, I was googling that stuff. Right now, I'm not. And so people are going there, and as marketers, you guys, I say you guys because I'm not a marketer, you guys have a responsibility to put your clients where their customers are, right? And
Mm.
and they're there, right? They're in the chat GPTs, and they're in the Claudes, and they're in the LMs, and they're asking questions there, right? And they're trying to get answers. And of course, the AI will go and Google that stuff all day long, right? That's just stuff needs to be in the algorithm. So that's where the customer, if the customers were back at the bus stop again, then you guys be putting bus signs up, right? Saying, hey, go buy $25 million, right? Because that's where they'll be, right? That's where they congregate. That's where they get around. Right now we're all getting onto AIs and we're asking questions. Maybe that'll change in 15 months. Who knows, right? But marketers are always where the customer. They always flock. They're like ambulance chasers, right? They just go wherever. They just go wherever the customers are going, right? And then they'll optimize for that. And that's what makes marketers great. It doesn't matter what the terrain is. It could be outdoor advertising. It could be before the movies. It could be the Super Bowl. It could be AIs. It could be a Google thing. They'll go where they are, right? And they'll find a way, right, to get the messaging straight on that platform.
Yeah. Listen, as a backend operator almost for all the partners, which I think is a great business model, by the way, you probably have the best business model in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
What challenges are you seeing now with AI, right? Like,
I
yeah.
mean, it's like so a lot of times people in our industry they bill by the hour, right? And think something that they cost things out by, okay, how long is it going to take to build?
Mm,
There's a divide between the agencies that will provide they will sell strategy or a solution with expertise. There are agencies who can do that, and there are agencies who cannot do that. That divide is kind of creating, and AI is kind of creating a chasm between these two. It's like an earthquake, and then half of it's like half the agencies are on one end of the edge of the crack, and the other agency on the other half of the crack. And so, they're trying to all kind of navigate where they're going, but the ground is shaking, right? And they're just trying to like figure out where they are, where they're going to be, and how they're going to do things, right? And yeah, even we're in that boat too. But like, it's kind of like trying to figure out how to. If you sell hours, it's now how do you sell strategy? If you're selling strategy, how do you actually provide value? Because now all of a sudden AI can just do everything, right? So it's like agencies or marketers are going to have to prove themselves, and I think you're going to see that this earthquake there will be casualties, and
yeah.
who they are, what they are, will just depend, right, on how quick we can adapt, how quick we can move. But most agency owners that I talk to, myself, yourself, like people like us, I mean, yeah, we're losing sleep. We never really had sleep to begin with, but I mean, thinking about it more, right? Okay, what will the next 24 months, 36 months look like? How will we move? I mean, we have to move again. We have to keep moving. We have to keep changing. But marketers have always been good shapeshifters, right? So I think they've been chameleons over the course of history, right? So I feel like, yeah, there'll always be room for marketers. What they do always changes, right? It just always has. So I don't know.
And you're seeing that impact already in people coming to you and being like, "Oh, why is it going to take that long?" Or what? Like, is that the conversation? Or what? Can we just not do this ourselves? And
Yeah, because look, we're a company that's boots on the ground, right? We'll provide you the boots on the ground to build whatever you want. And so, well, I can build that now using AI. And you're right, you can. It'll take us less time to do that if we use AI too. So, I mean, it's that kind of a conversation, right? And then the standards get higher. Like, okay, now that you've coded it, how secure is it? What's it going to be like? Is it efficient? I mean, I had my AI doc go through your code and see how it looks. Can you make these changes that I'm recommending? I'm being their AI agent, right? Because now it's like you want to have the governance, right? It's like when you go to a mechanic. Okay, you fix the car, but I ran through the AI and they say, oh, this needs to be done this way, this needs to be done that way. Everybody has an assistant now, and that just makes the standard of everybody higher, right? But it still does create that, which it's a vicious cycle. The standard gets higher, and then of course they want to pay less because it takes less time. But at the same time, now you have more expertise, so you can charge more. So it's kind of like this, like it's like what you said about like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, but I know I can do it, but I don't want to do it, so I'm going to pay someone else to do it, and they're going to charge me a premium to do it for less time. So it's kind of like this vicious circle that we're in, and I feel like nobody really knows what they're talking about, but we're all just trying to like get ourselves in a place where we can help other people do this stuff. And it's good.
yeah,
It's a good place to be, and it's exciting as much as it is intimidating. So, which is good.
yeah. So, Jill, I think we have to remind ourselves that there is something that remains true. And I know this not because I know this through testing, through trying. We try a lot of things with AI, and without a doubt,
Yeah.
it will send me down the wrong path if I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
So if you don't know anything, if you've never built a website before, and you don't know anything about UX, and you don't know anything about accessibility, and you don't know anything about hosting, and you don't know anything about security or integrations, or you're going to build something that is going to look good, and then you're going to find out months later that something wasn't working, or and it's going to have consequences because you don't have the same rigor that you had before in terms of like, hey, these are all the things that we would check even if a human being was doing it.
Yeah.
And so I think that people need to be reminded of that. And the expertise in that layer of oversight, uh, it's valuable. It's what makes it's how you make sure that something got done well, even if you got help from, instead of a human being, an AI agent. On the flip side, I think AI, in many cases, I can write better code with AI than my developers could, because I'm there
100%.
and I can think of everything and I can tell it to fix things, and then it just gives me the code and it's there. So, but
100%.
I know what I'm asking for. I know what I'm gonna do with it. I know how to use it. I know what the implications are. If you've never done this before, then you won't.
Yeah, and that's the trick, right? Is to know what you want to teach it and what it has to do for you, with you, not necessarily instead of you, right? Like it's kind of
Yeah, and for clients, for them to understand and for us to communicate to them that without that oversight is a huge risk. In the investment world, a big part of the things that people do are, you pick, you do a lot of due diligence on investments, and then you pick the ones that you think are going to perform well, and then you do due diligence from a bunch of perspectives. If I am a client, an investment client, and I'm like, oh, why can't I just go and LLM and then ask it to give me the recommendations? Yeah, you can, and it's going to look good. But what background knowledge do you have to know that you're not being completely BS'd?
Mhm.
And that layer is crucial.
Very crucial, very crucial.
And that's
Enrique,
what we offer.
Enrique, so you offer that, right? So what? Tell us about Paula now. What is Paula? Where can people find more about you?
Paula Inc.ca. We are a branding and marketing and sales operations company. So basically branding and RevOps. And there are two ICPs for me. One is the companies that are looking for like a branding uplift, a digital presence uplift. There's a lot of companies in wealth management that are outdated from their digital presence perspective. So from a branding perspective, we can give them a lift. And the reason they'll come to us is because we understand their language. We know how to put a chart together, which is something simple. But if you give it to most creative agencies, hey, create this graph about this data, they'll just, their minds will blow up. Maybe not so much now that they have AI, but 5 minutes ago they couldn't have done it. So there is a number of reasons in terms of us understanding the wealth management world, the financial services world, that help us be a good fit for that. And then on the other side, and this is more for like the fintech, payments, loan management companies, we do more RevOps work, which is, they have marketing operations, they have sales operations, they're more transactional. And so very much the work you do, which is like, managing pipelines, managing marketing operations, email marketing, workflows, all the good stuff that comes with that. But then one thing that's something we're leaning in big time on is this whole idea of answer engine optimization. We're really trying to hone that expertise so that it's something that we're known for, and we double down on. Is that clear? That's, I know it was a lot,
Totally.
but that's
No, no, that's totally clear. I mean, so listen, Enrique, this was a really awesome conversation. I didn't know that you work with some big shot investor. I'm gonna have to figure out who that is with you off the record. Uh, it was fun to
no,
learn.
no. So let me be clear about that. I work with investment companies that
Okay,
only take in
taking big time.
uh,
Okay,
big time investors, right? Like you can't, like, their clients are not people who have $20,000 to invest in an RRSP. It's like people who have millions of dollars to invest.
gotcha. And yeah,
Yeah.
like it was fun to learn more about you under the hood a little bit. I didn't know a lot of these stories, so it was good to jam. And thanks for coming on today.
Okay, bro. I'll see you at the table tennis
Yeah,
table.
exactly. Yeah, we'll do that again. Uh,
Thanks for having me, man.
if this has been another episode of RevOps 500, thanks everybody for listening. Take care.